All right, let's get started now. We're going to start with the youth course. We're going to start with tax filing services, and we're just going to jump right on into it.
So, now that you're reaching the end of our unit on taxation, you feel 100% confident to do your own taxes, right? If not, that is totally okay. Sometimes I'm not 100% confident on doing my own taxes, and I'm the one teaching you how to do it. Fact is, taxes can be long, confusing, and downright irritating. But luckily, you're not required to do it all on your own. There are plenty of resources out there, both human and electronic, that are designed to help you file your taxes on time. In this video, we're going to go over all of your options that you have for doing your taxes come tax filing season. Be it doing it all on your own with no outside help, using an electronic tax preparation program, or by hiring a human tax professional to do it all for you. Let's get into it. When it comes to filing your taxes, you have three main options. Doing it all yourself with no outside assistance, using a tax preparation program to help you with your filing, or hiring a certified tax professional to just do it all for you. Each of these methods have their own advantages and disadvantages, and whichever one is best for you is often a personal decision. However, no matter which method you choose, there is going to be one thing that is always the same. Before you start, you need to collect all of your tax documentation. That's a W-2 from each employer and a 1099 from every other institution you received money from. If you had expenses that were tax deductible, you'll also want to collect 1098 forms for those. If you made any charitable contributions or had business expenses, you'll want to scrounge up all of those receipts as well. Once you've gathered all of that, it's time to choose how you're going to be filing your taxes. Filing without any help is a perfectly viable option. It's free, for one thing. If you're worried about paying a tax bill, every little bit of money you save is going to be a major relief. So a lot of people choose to file their own taxes every year. But there are some situations you could have which would make this option not the best for you. First, filing out a tax return form and reading through all the lines that might apply to you could take a long time. Each additional source of income or deductible expense is just going to make the whole process longer and more complicated. If you've got a lot going on with your finances and not a whole lot of free time, doing your taxes on your own may not be a good idea. If you choose to do your own taxes, you have a few options for how you want to file your tax return. You could go the old school route, printing and filling out all the forms on paper and then mailing them to the IRS. Or you can make use of modern technology and do it all digitally. The IRS has even designed electronic forms that you can fill out and send directly to them, all on the IRS website. If doing it all by yourself still seems a little too complicated, you can get some help with tax preparation software. The two most commonly used ones are TurboTax and H&R Block, but there are plenty of others out there too. Don't be afraid to go shopping for a little bit to see which one of these programs works best for you. Now, how tax preparation software works is that instead of you having to go through all the forms yourself and try to understand all that complicated language, the tax preparation software will instead ask you some simple questions in simple language. And as you answer these questions with your information, it will slowly but surely fill up those forms for you. In fact, at some points, the program might ask you to snap a picture of your W-2 and it'll just pick your information out from there, no questions needed. Using tax preparation software could save you a ton of time that would otherwise be spent researching laws and definitions, but it could also cost you, literally. For simple tax returns, meaning you have a low amount of income from a single job and not much else, most tax preparation software comes with a free version you can use. But if your finances are any more complicated than that, you might have to pay. And it only gets more expensive the more information you have to put in. This means that you'll be spending more money on top of your tax bill. Or if you're looking at a tax refund, the amount you get back will be much smaller. Always keep an eye on the price tag if you choose to use a tax preparation software instead of doing your taxes yourself.
Auto insurance all seems the same until it's time to use it. With USAA, it's easy to...
If your finances get really complicated, then it might be time to hire a professional. Tax professionals are incredibly educated and knowledgeable on taxes and tax law. So they know exactly what they're doing and how to do all of those complicated calculations. All you have to do is give them your gathered documents, answer a few questions, sign some papers authorizing them to do your taxes for you, and then they will go through the entire tax return filing process for you and even send them to the IRS on your behalf. Oh, and you'll have to pay a hefty fee, of course. See, because you're having an actual person do your taxes, you need to pay them for their time and effort, and that can add up very quickly over time. You need to do careful research before you decide whether it's worth it to have a tax professional do something that you might be able to handle on your own. On the other hand, if your taxes are super duper complicated and you make a mistake while doing them yourself, or even when using tax preparation software, you can be liable for extra fees and interest on your unpaid taxes. Most tax professionals have a policy that covers the cost of any mistake that they make on your taxes. But do your research though. Not every tax professional has this policy. I would be cautious of any tax professional that doesn't have a mistake-free guarantee policy though. In fact, I would be cautious when hiring any tax professional because you can end up losing out on a lot more than just some extra fees. See, in order for someone else to do your taxes for you, you need to provide them with some very sensitive information that could open you up to identity theft and fraud. In fact, the IRS actually has a list up on their website of things to look out for when you're hiring a tax professional. One of the easiest things to look out for is that any licensed tax professional will be registered with the IRS. So you should just be able to find them when searching the IRS website. If you cannot find a record of someone anywhere on the IRS website, do not let them do your taxes for you. However you choose to file your taxes is ultimately up to you. But remember, now that you've finished this unit, you have all the skills you need to at least try doing them on your own and save yourself a bit of money while doing so. If you don't feel completely confident, you can always use tax preparation software to help you out for free or maybe a small fee. And if you're completely lost because your finances are so complicated that you just can't do it alone, you can always hire a tax professional to do them for you. But you should always check out their credentials before you give them any sensitive information. So, in this unit, you learned that your paychecks usually aren't as big as you hope they would be because of taxes. The key to making your money stretch further, though, is by saving and investing it. And in the next unit, you are going to learn how to do exactly that so that you can watch your money grow without even having to do anything. See you then.
And we are going to start that now right away. with introduction to savings and investment.
The process of getting started with entering legal couldn't have been easier. It was so seamless.
Fun fact, money loses value over time. Okay, so that's not exactly a fun fact, but if you want to be as financially successful as possible, you gotta understand that. You can't just take all your extra money and keep it in your pocket, because it's not gonna be worth as much in the future. And that's not just because it'll get ruined when you forget it in your pocket on laundry day. It's actually more accurate to say that money just sitting in your pocket is losing potential value over time, because you could be putting it somewhere where it would gain interest and grow in value instead of just staying the same amount. This is related to a concept known as the time value of money, or TVM. TVM states that any amount of money is worth more now than it will be later, but only because you could be investing it now and having it grow in value instead of just letting it stay the same.
So that is very important and should be differentiated from inflation, wherein the dollars that you have are able to have less purchasing power to buy things that you want. So time value of money and inflation are two different concepts.
Making your money grow while you're not actively using it is most often done through saving and investing. Interest from savings and dividends from investments both give you the same result. Your money will grow instead of losing potential value. So in this video, you are going to get a preview of some of the topics we're going to cover in your upcoming unit on savings and investments. Let's get into it. The goal of this unit is to prepare you to become financially independent later on in your life. Financial independence is when you have enough passive income coming in where you can live comfortably without needing to continue working for a living. Most people only reach financial independence when they retire. But a lot of people out there are not okay with this plan. Working super hard for 50 years and then being financially independent for maybe 10 or 15 more? That doesn't sound like a great deal. So many plan to become financially independent earlier in life and have more time to just relax and hang out with friends. Some people choose to live ultra minimalistic lifestyles by cutting out all the wants from their budget. No going out for fast food, no random shopping trips, just taking all that extra money and putting it right into their savings. It's really hard to only buy the things you need. I don't even think I could do it. But that's okay, because there's a huge spectrum between saving all your money for the future and spend it all now, spend it all now. And you can choose where your personal lifestyle will fit on that spectrum. In this unit, you're going to learn a bunch of tips and tricks that will help you decide how to best save and invest your money so that you can become financially independent. First, we're going to learn about all the different methods for saving your money, including the pros and cons of each. Next, we'll go into all the different ways you can invest your money. Investing is usually a bit riskier than saving, but it can also be a lot more efficient in growing your money. There are actually so many different ways you can invest your money that we needed to split up this topic into 2 different lessons. Now, knowing all the different ways you can save and invest your money is great and all, but it doesn't really help if you don't know which is best. So after this, we're going to take a deep dive into the concept of TVM so that we can find out ways to compare between different savings and investment options so that you can decide which is best. And finally, at the end of the unit, you will be able to put your newfound knowledge to the test in the totally possible chance that you win a ton of money on a game show. What would you do? Would you put it into a savings account, invest it in stocks, or just spend it all on a new car? The choice is up to you in our Choose Your Own Story, Sudden Windfall. By the end of the unit, you're going to have the knowledge and the fictional experience to be able to make the decisions that will help you grow your money and achieve financial independence. See you next time.
And we're going to start that journey right away. We're going to start with ways to save.
Are you driving way less than you used to? Do you have a clean driving record? Are you over 25?
So, you've made your money, you've paid taxes on it, and now it's time to save it. But saving money is hard. In fact, there are a lot of Americans out there who have less than $1,000 in savings. Many don't have any at all. That means if someone had an emergency expense that cost them $1,000, many of them would just not have enough savings to cover for it. They would have to put it on a credit card that they might not be able to pay back, ask a family member or friend to borrow money, or even take out a personal loan. The biggest reason to save? It's to alleviate stress. Having savings means that you're not worried about living paycheck to paycheck. If there is an emergency, you know that you have money already put away to cover for it. If you lose your job, it means you have time to figure it out without worrying about living in debt. And on a more positive note, savings also allow you to afford those big purchases that you've been looking forward to your whole life. Saving is preparing for your future, no matter what that may look like. Okay, so you've decided to save some money. The question now is, where? Well, today we are going to talk about 3 different types of savings accounts that will hold and grow your money. Let's get into it. Now, before we get into the 3 different types of savings accounts we're going to talk about today, whenever you're deciding where to save your money, you should always look out for these features. First, the risk. How safe is it for me to leave my money here? These 3 types of accounts that we're going to be talking about are all considered pretty safe places for your money, much safer than a piggy bank or under your mattress. This is because banks have protocols in place that will protect your money from fraud, theft, or anything else that might happen to it. Moving on, the interest rates. How much money can I make off my money? Liquidity, or how easy is it for me to take my money back when I need it? Here's a big one, account features. Like, say, a minimum opening deposit. Is there a minimum amount of money that I need to put into the account just to open it? Or a minimum account balance. Is there a minimum amount of money that needs to be in the account at all times so that I avoid paying a fee? How about minimum monthly deposit requirements? Is there a minimum amount of money that I need to put into the account every month to avoid paying another fee? And always keep an eye out for monthly service fees. Do I need to pay a fee every month just to maintain the account? Lastly, we have customer service. Where do I go to and who do I contact if I have questions or problems with my account? Now, some people might say, oh, I don't need a separate savings account. I'll just keep all my money together in my checking account. But most checking accounts are tied to a debit card. And since that makes your money so easily accessible to you, you may be tempted to overspend and dip into the money you meant to keep as savings, especially if you're like me and struggle with impulse purchases. Today, we are going to be talking about the pros and cons for these 3 types of savings accounts. But remember, everyone's different. Everyone's spending and saving habits are different. Everyone's financial needs and situations are different. So what may be a pro for you could be a con for somebody else. It's really up to you for a lot of this. Okay, so the first type of savings account we're going to encounter is the regular savings account. Yay! This is probably the type of savings account that most people are familiar with because it's usually someone's first savings account made with their local bank as a young person. While your savings account is different from your checking account, you still have quick and easy access to your money in case of an emergency. You can also earn interest with a regular savings account, but unfortunately, it's going to be at a pretty low rate. A traditional local bank's savings account will usually offer you somewhere around 0.01 maybe 0.02% interest, which for most Americans is literally earning pennies. There's also a chance that there's a minimum opening deposit, minimum account balance, monthly deposit requirements, or monthly service fees with the account. But since this is from your local bank, it's easy enough to just hop over there, talk to someone who will give you all the details of the account, answer any questions you might have, and even set up the account for you. But there's also usually an option to set up the account online if you prefer. In general, I think that this type of account makes the most sense for someone with a smaller emergency fund and for money that someone might want to access in the very near future. Another option for your savings is a high yield savings account. This is similar to a regular savings account, only the interest you're getting is much higher. Many typical high yield savings accounts will offer you 3 or even 4% interest rate. For most people, that means now you're earning dollars instead of just pennies. But be warned, these interest rates can fluctuate over time, meaning you might not always have the same interest rate as when you first opened the account. Plus, these types of accounts are typically done with online banks, meaning everything's done online and there's no physical location for you to hop on over to if you want to actually chat with someone. Plus, these types of accounts might not always give you access to a debit card. But not having quick access to your money may help you stop yourself from spending your savings when you don't need to. You still have access to your money. It might just take a few days for it to transfer into your checking account. Just keep an eye out for how many withdrawals you can make before you get hit with a fee. You know yourself best. Isn't not having access to a debit card a pro or a con? Is doing everything online innovative or just annoying? Similar to a regular savings account, a high yield savings account might come with a minimum opening deposit, minimum account balance, monthly deposit requirements, or monthly service fees. Obviously, we want to stay away from fees, but if you're someone who lacks a little discipline and struggles with keeping up with your budgeting goals, does a monthly deposit requirement sound like it would help motivate you and keep you accountable? Only you can answer that. In general, I think this type of account is best for someone with a larger emergency fund and for money that someone doesn't plan on accessing in the very near future. The third option for your savings that we're going to be talking about today is a certificate of deposit, or CD. A CD is kind of like a savings account, but just slightly more restrictive. How it works is you open up an account and choose a term, something like 3 months, 6 months, a year, or even 5 years. And then your money will go into the account and it will accrue interest. With a CD, you're going to be earning interest at a much higher rate than with a regular savings account, and at a similar or slightly higher interest rate than with a high yield savings account. Plus, the longer your term, the higher the interest rate will be. Many one-year CDs will offer you a 4 to 5% interest rate. But there's a catch. You can't access your money until the term is completely done. So if you really need the money and want it back early, you're going to have to pay an early withdrawal fee just to get it back. Now, some CDs will require a minimum opening deposit, but for the most part, CDs don't really have monthly minimum deposits or monthly fees to speak of. Most local banks will offer CDs, as well as most online banks too, so the choice is up to you. Do you prefer your customer service in person or online? In general, I think this type of account makes the most sense for someone who wants to save extra money outside of their emergency fund, since you cannot access this money quickly. You should only choose this option if you are certain that you're not going to need this money until the end of your term. Today, we learned about the 3 most common types of savings accounts. And like I said before, everyone is different. So now it's up to you to decide the pros and cons of each of these options based on your own habits, needs, and financial situation. But despite how different everyone is, I do think it's important for everyone to start saving up an emergency fund. A good rule of thumb is to put aside at least 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. Expenses being the things that you absolutely cannot survive without, like rent, bills, and food. Anything you save beyond that, though, is just icing on the cake. And that leaves room for investing, which is exactly what we're going to be talking about in the next lesson. See you then.
Hey, hey.